2 lectures so far. Oh, no. 3, 4 lectures so far for Interest and Trust. And this is her very special lecture. She's doing, I think, because me and Ramesh both insisted on this subject. That she's going to talk about Charvaka and Lokayata, the ancient Indian atheist materialist philosophy. Renate is working with the Munich University and is visiting faculty to many other German universities. And she is almost visiting faculty to India. And she looks forward to coming to India, and we look forward meeting her. We look forward to her speeches with her, her lectures with her. And we are really very lucky to have you, Renate. And Renate had a bit of a doubt, maybe, or she thought somebody, Indologist, but German Indologist, talking about Indian philosophy may not be well taken, but it's nothing of that sort. People do welcome such an audience as Institution has, do welcome people talking about their own culture, but coming from other nations, other Indologists, and that is a very welcome thing. You should not be, you should not have that doubt in your mind as well. We will be welcoming you. We all will welcome you very much with full heart. Why are we not muting everybody?
No, should have come. Yes, they haven't come yesterday. They haven't come today.
Yeah, please don't let that happen when the lecture starts. I think, Renate, I should not take more of your time. What you are doing, what you are, is very much here, and people can read it. So we should straight away start your lecture.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Mukta, for inviting me again to give a lecture.
We will be inviting you again and again.
Actually, I'm a little bit hesitant. I wrote, Mukta, that as a German Indologist speaking in India, on India, maybe not everybody is welcoming this, but Mukta wrote me, no, I'm as a German Indologist, I'm welcomed in India, so I'm happy. And actually, I'm teaching Indian philosophy at 2 universities, and of course, we are speaking about Sankhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika Nyaya, all these schools. And I also included in several cycles of lectures the ancient Indian materialists or Charvakas, Lokayatas, because they are seldom acknowledged in Germany. So let's see. Thank you very much for coming and listening to me. Thank you. So the ancient Indian materialists, we have a very interesting citation. Madhusudana Saraswati on Bhagavad Gita writes a very important saying of the Charvakas, which said, Yava jivet sukham jivet ranam krutva grutam pibet basma bhutasya dehasya punar agamanam kutaha. That means as long as you live happily, incurring debts or taking loans, drink gruta, ghee only, and rebirth. From where shall it come once the body is reduced to ashes? That's a very famous saying of the Charvakas, and actually it is quoted in Madhusudana's commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. India, in the West, mainly in Germany, and German Indology, which is my subject, was and is since more than 200 years conceived as a culture based on religion, metaphysics and spirituality, and Vedanta, Sankhya and Yoga were greatly admired by German philosophers as Schelling, Schopenhauer and Nietzsche. But the ancient Indian traditions of materialism, Lokayata, and atheism, Nirishvaravada, even though they are as old as Buddhism and Jainism, dating back to the 6th and 5th century, were actually never perceived. All philosophies you can find in the West, for instance, ancient Greek philosophy, European medieval philosophy, and modern German and European philosophies, all of these schools you also can find completely independent in their origin, development, and tradition, and much older, by sometimes thousands of years, in India. You can find in India materialism, positivism, skepticism, nihilism, realism, hedonism, atheism, besides the well-known idealism, theism, metaphysics, spirituality, asceticism, etc. The West mainly took notice of the Vedanta, which was compared to German idealism, and Germany very much received yoga. The philosophy of the Upanishads became very, very famous in Germany since the 1810, and Sankhya, of course, praised by the famous German philosopher Schopenhauer, while Indian materialistic schools and nihilists were hardly noticed. The lecture now wants to present some views of the Lokayatas or Charvakas, whose texts are lost, while fragments are preserved only in the texts of their adversaries and opponents, mainly Buddhists and Jainas, and in several commentaries to be shown later piece by piece. The ideas and concepts of the Nastikas, actually, I will explain why the materialists were called Nastikas. They're not only very old and bold and astute, but amazing, timeless and modern. And therefore, the Lokayata and Charvaka schools should not be forgotten, but rather remembered, appreciated and revived, being one of the most radical philosophical systems, not only in India, but of the world. There is hardly anything new under the sun, and even traits of atheism and skepticism can already be found in the Rig Veda. So, while Charvaka, the term Charvaka mainly designates the school of Brihaspati and his pupil Charvaka. So the word Lokayata concerning the material world is more an umbrella term used for Charvakas as well as for the Ajivikas, a school founded by Maskarin Goshala. And Lokayata also means directed towards the world or prevalent ayata among the people, Lokeshu. And the most interesting book on this topic of the Lokayata is, as you all know, by Devi Prasad Chattopadhyaya, who wrote a famous book on ancient Indian materialism, which is very valuable till today. This is the book of Chattopadhyaya, who was a Marxist and found similarities between Marxist materialism and the ancient Indian ideas. So why are the Charvakas, the Lokayatas, why are they also called Nastika? Because they always answered, if questioned about anything, Naasti, it is not. Is there any neither world, the Paraloka? They used to answer, Naasti, it is not. Is there a Sansara? No, it is not, Naasti. Is there Punarjanma? No, Naasti. In the same rhetoric manner, they denied, I will show you the sources later, the existence of karma and phala, so the outcome of karma, the existence of God, Ishvara, or the gods of the Vedas, the Devas, the existence of dharma and virtue, also denying any meaning or sense of the Vedas, knowledge, spiritual wisdom, and so on. So the Lokayatas used to answer, Nasti, it is not. On the other hand, the Sanskrit term astika, or it is sayers, refers to the other system of thought in ancient India, which admit the validity of the Vedas and the authority of the Vedas. Sanskrit asti means there is, and the astika, according to Panini, means one who says asti, it is. So therefore the Nastikas are called so because they said, no, it is not. So this is actually the systematic sketch of the Indian philosophical schools. You see the Veda, Upanishads, the Nyaya, Vaisheshika, the Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta, and Mimamsa are the Astika schools because they believe in metaphysics and accept the validity and authority of the Vedas. Jainism is something special, but the Nastika schools on the left side are Anatma tradition. Actually, they say there is no Atma or soul. This is Charvaka, Buddhism, and Jainism. So this is the Indian, classical Indian systematic of the Indian philosophical schools. So we have 8 schools orthodox. The orthodox schools are divided in pairs by ancient Indian commentators like Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya plus Yoga, Vedanta plus Mimamsa, and Charvaka is something special. And this Indian website says it is the joker. Materialism does not survive in India because India is too spiritual, he says, and we will see why this is. So these are the schools, the Hindu philosophy, the Astika, the Nastika, and then you have theistic schools and you have non-theistic schools. For example, Sankhya is Nirishvaravada, as is Nyaya, and even yoga in its eldest form is Nirishvaravada, because the liberation of the soul is done by the person itself and there is no need for any Ishvara to help. We are in philosophy and not in religion here. So notably, it is very important to notice that even the 6 Astika schools, the Shadarshana, which are actually accepted by the Brahmanical authorities, are also sometimes Nirishvaravada. So the old Sankhya school, being highly metaphysical and postulating the immortal Purusha next to Prakriti, the spirit besides matter, does not accept God, even if there is later, as you better know than I do, a theistic form of Sankhya in the Bhagavad Gita. The old Vedanta school acknowledges Atman and Brahman and not God as the creator or survivor. So we have metaphysics without God. That is also possible in India. Yoga, even if there is a theistic version with acknowledging God, essentially is atheistic. Therefore, you can practice yoga as a Hindu, a Jain, a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Christian. Even the Orthodox Jews in Israel are practicing yoga and the Parsi without giving up your own religion, because yoga essentially is not claiming God or postulating God. The materialistic schools, the Charvaka or Lokayata, is also called Dehavada, as it only accepts matter and material bodies, Deha, consisting of the 4 elements. Actually, the word Dehavada is what we can translate as materialism. In this sense, the human body, so the Lokayata claim, is made of the 4 elements. I will show you later which elements. And Chaitanya, the consciousness of the human, is nothing else as made of matter. So there is no transmigration, nor samsara or anything. Astikas, the other schools, called the school also an Atmavada, because the Nastikas denied a higher immortal self called Atman in Vedanta and Purusha in Sankhya. So the school also is called Dehavada or Anatmavada by traditional Indian text. We will see which text. It is mainly the Sarva Sangraha of Madhava Acharya and so on. Yeah. Deha Atmavada is another name for the Indian atheistic materialists, because it is a theory, Vada, or the doctrine, Vada, stating that the personal self, the person I am, is nothing other than the material body itself. And having explained the existence of 4 elements, that is Prithvi, Agni, Apaha, Vayu, the 5th element, Akasha, is not accepted by the materialists, as we cannot prove Akasha. According to Madhava Acharya's statement, the Charvakas defined the consciousness of the human mind as Chaturbhyah Tebhyah Chaitanyam. The consciousness of man is only made of the 4 elements and nothing else. It is matter. Our brain is matter. Prithvi, Agni, Apaha, Vayu, nothing else. So why the other Indian schools accepted 5 elements, for example, Samkhya or Yoga, or even Vaisheshika, is accepting 5 elements, that is Agni, Prithvi, Vayu, Jala, and Akasha. Bhutas, they are called Bhutas. Agni, fire, Prithvi, earth, Vayu, wind, Jala, water, Akasha, ether. The 4 elements, Agni, Prithvi, Vayu, and Jala, are the only valid tattvas, entities, being things, because the Akasha cannot be proved. The Charvaka school is a very ancient school of Indian materialism, accepting only the visible world, Lokayata, or direct perception, which is called Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means, as you know, what is in front of your eyes. That is empiricism, which we can also find in Western philosophy, as a proper source of knowledge, only empiric data. The school also embraces philosophical skepticism and rejects ritualism and Brahmanical authority, any kind of supernaturalism, and any kind of metaphysic. They gave an epistemological justification for the materialism that reminds us, Europeans, of the British empiricist and skeptic David Hume and other logical positivists, and we only can say the Indian school and the school of David Hume are very much related, but the Indian ideas are much, much older than David Hume, who came independently to his own philosophy. So empiricism means that you see something, but still there always is a certain doubt. That's actually all our knowledge comes through the use of the 5 senses. This is what the Lokayatas or Charvakas stated. So the school of materialism in India is almost lost and almost disappeared. Why? Why is this? Hindu philosophers of established traditions, mainly followers of the Shadarshana, did not, as a rule, refer to materialism or atheism directly, or refute its contents, or make any attempt to understand and to approve of these concepts. Mainly, other Indian schools ignored it, hoping it would disappear. What it almost did, but hopefully not forever. Anyhow, some of the great Hindu commentators on philosophical systems as Shankara Acharya and Madhava Acharya included extensive descriptions of materialism and atheism in their work. So we can get enough data from the commentary of Madhava Acharya to understand what the Charvakas and Lokayata actually said, even if the texts are lost. Materialists seem to have been excluded from the Brahmanical discourses in ancient India, as ancient Indian philosophers were hesitant to engage in discussions with representatives of the materialists, except formulating standardized dismissive refutations of a few basic materialist theories, which are mentioned by the Astika philosophers. Still, the ideas of the atheists and of the materialists were rejected as a whole. So the theory of Charvaka was laid down in the so-called Barhaspatya Sutras. Indian texts speak of these sutras, proving they existed, but they are lost today. Named after the founder of the school, Brahaspati, but the text as a whole is lost today. It is said to have contained complete theories of materialism and anti-theism. Brahaspati is dated to the Maurya period, or even earlier, and some say he was a contemporary of Buddha Shakyamuni and Mahavira, the founder of Jainism. His pupil, some say, is most probably, but this is not for sure, Charvaka. His name came from Charuvaka, who is speaking friendly or softly. However, fragments of the lost texts are quoted in other Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain texts, and these secondary sources make it possible to reconstruct the leading ideas of the lost text, and I will show you now what the Charvakas actually said. These are the texts, the sources which I used for this lecture. There is Jayarashi's Tattva Upaplava Singha, a very important text. He himself is a Nastika, Charvaka. We have the commentary of Shankara Acharya on Brahma Sutra. Then Sadananda gave some explanations of Charvaka philosophy in Vedanta Sara, a commentary on Vedanta. Nilakanta, in his Bhagavad Gita commentary, refers to the Charvaka school. And in the Kama Sutra commentary of Yashodhara, there is also something said about Charvakas. So if you want to get a quick idea of the dogmatics of the Charvakas, please refer to Rasik Vihari Joshi in Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute, volume 68, where he tried to bundle together all the different statements concerning the Charvakas. His article is very important for understanding the Charvaka school. The other very important source, which I worked intensively, is the Sarva Darshana Sangraha of Madhava Acharya. That is a compilation of all philosophical schools. And in the first chapter of his book, he refers to Charvaka philosophy in a descriptive and, of course, critical way, as Madhava himself did not accept materialism and began his work with the praise of God Shiva. I worship Shiva, he said, the abode of eternal knowledge, by whom the earth and the rest were produced. In him only has all this a maker, which is completely opposed to materialistic ideas. Madhava summarizes the essence of Charvaka philosophy in his text, as long as you live, the Charvaka said, live merrily. None of us can escape the searching eye of Yama, the god of death, once the body of our burns, how can it return again? There's no punarjanma, rebirth, samsara, or anything. So Madhava's commentary is very important for understanding the Charvaka. So actually, what did the Charvakas believe? Madhava Acharya describes the Charvakas as critical of the Vedas. They are, so he writes, a materialists without morals and ethics. The Charvakas believed, according to Madhava Acharya, the Vedas suffered from several faults. There were errors in transmission across generations, untruths, self-contradiction, tautology. Furthermore, so the Charvaka said, there are so many contradictions in the Vedas, disagreements, debates, and mutual rejection by priests of several schools, which proves that there is not one truth in the Veda, but several untruths. So the Vedas were, according to the Charvaka, made by men, by human minds, and not by spiritual powers or being in eternal or imperishable realities, as the Mimamsakas declared. You know, the Mimamsakas said the Veda is actually not made by men, but it's an eternal truth and it is imperishable and so on. This idea the Charvakas rejected completely. Madhava Acharya in his Sarva Darshana Sankara cites the beliefs of the Charvakas as there is no other world than this. Heaven, Svarga, or hell, Naraka, do not exist. The realm of God Shiva is invented by blunderers, Durta. So religion is considered by Charvakas, as by Karl Marx later, as made by men to suppress other people. So the Charvakas said, the world consists of 4 elements only, that is earth, water, fire, and air, and nothing else. Poetic and romantic descriptions are stupid. The fire is hot only, the water cold, the morning breeze is only cool. And where do these differences come from? From their natural differences. So actually the Charvakas believe in natural powers only. No divine, metaphysical, spiritual powers whatsoever, just nature. And this is a very modern idea. So they said, according to Madhava Acharya, the authors of the 3 Vedas were bhanda-s, scoundrels, durtas, villains, and nishacharas, rogues. They composed senseless texts calling it science or shastra. The Agnihotra, the 3 Vedas, Trayi, the ascetic goals, and smearing oneself with ashes were made by nature as the livelihood of those destitute of knowledge and manliness. Actually, the Charvakas believed that people who cannot cope with life, they become mendicants and so on, and actually they are following a stupid way. It's a very strong criticism of Indian spirituality, of course. So the Vedas, knowledge and life, Durta Pralapas Trayi, the 3, the holy 3, this is Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, is babbling, pralapa of scoundrels. Loka vi avaharam prati sadrushau bala panditau. World business, that is loka vi avahara, is the same sadrisha for a child and a wise man. This states that a child and a wise man, or bala also can mean idiot sometimes, is the same because there is nothing to know. We call people pandits because they believe they know something, but there is nothing to know. So a child knows enough to cope with the world. Na asti paralokaha, there is no other world. Therefore, laukiko margo anusartavya. Therefore, the worldly way has to be followed and no spiritual path. While the most ancient Indian schools, including Sankhya, Yoga, the Upanishads, accepted 4 elements, that is earth, Prithvi, water, Apaha or Jala, air, Vayu, fire, Agni or Tejas, and ether or space, Akasha. The Charvakas accepted only 4 elements. They call it the Prithvi, Apas, Teju, Vayu or Iti Tatvani. The only entities which can be experienced, Tattva, is Prithvi, Apas, Teju, Vayu. Akasha cannot be proved. It is not evident. We just believe to see Akasha, but how can we prove it? Atra, Chatvari, Bhutani, Bhumi, Vari, Anala, Anilaha. There are 4 elements, earth, water, fire, and wind, the Charvaka said. And really, Kalu, Chaturbhyach, Bhutebhyach, from these 4 elements, Chaitanyam, the consciousness of man, the brain, intelligence, Chaitanyam, is built. So the theory says that the brain is made of matter and there is nothing else. The nature of things: fire is hot, water is cool, and the morning breeze is mild to the touch. Who could have constructed these attributes if they were not of the very nature, svabhava, of these objects? So the Charvakas developed the idea of svabhava, the inner being, the inherent nature of things. Fire is always hot, water is always cool, and so on. So we can call the Charvakas naturalistic philosophers explaining all perceptible phenomena by referring solely to the nature of the constituent elements of matter, which man can experience with his senses. There is no doctrine of creation among the Charvakas. The principles of karma and niyati, fate, are rejected by them because they are derived from the notion that existence in itself is purposeful, which is not. And this is very important. Actually, the Charvakas say life, being, existence has no sense and no aim. No sense and no aim. There is no teleology, as teleology, a Greek term, means or finality, is a reason or explanation for something as a function to its end. For example, if I practice yoga, I want to gain liberation, I want to understand and learn. So there's a telos, an end, as the Greeks say. But according to the Charvaka school, we and the world has an aim which Charvakas deny. So claiming in my words, I would say it, that the Charvaka philosophy is that we are just, and this for nothing. So for the Charvakas, the most probable explanation of being itself in a Heidegger sense. Heidegger actually was the German philosopher who thought a lot about being. Why is being? What is being? What is it for? He has written the famous book Sein und Zeit, Being and Time, where he ponders over this question, which he actually could not solve. And the Charvakas actually also not or gave an answer. Being for them is that the world and its phenomena evolved as a result of a series of random events, and that the universe probably came into existence by chance, not by a creator. as Jews or Christians or Muslims believe. No, it is just, it came, and this is a very modern idea, which is actually developed by Darwinism. The world just came into existence. And in the end, so the Charvakas, according to Madhava Acharya, said there cannot be any certainty about the origin of the universe or the sense and meaning of life, and everything will remain speculative. So if Heidegger would have heard of the Charvakas, which he did not, he would be highly impressed, because that's what he thought. Heidegger is a very important German philosopher. So the thinking of the Charvakas is similar to the naturalism as claimed by John Dewey, as there is no creator, no aim, no sense, no telos. Nature itself and solely has to be regarded as the ultimate force, thriving according to its own law in us and moving us on and on. Schopenhauer called it the will. Sigmund Freud called it Trieb, instinct or drive. The Indians called it much earlier, thousands of years earlier, karma or Shakti, the power which is working in me. So I get up in the morning, I make my job. This is Shakti, energy, inner Trieb. Or it is the inherent intrinsic power of sense or usefulness evolution, according to Darwin, based on coincidence by random principle plus necessity. So cows have udders, there is a sense in it. The sense is by nature itself, nothing else. And it came by evolution. The evolution itself, according to Darwin, worked on and randomized, and there was a necessity, and so the things of evolution came into being. That's all, nothing else. Evolution does not want anything. Actually, this is what the Sankhyas believe, that Prakriti itself just has a kshoba, urknall, things explode and worlds come into existence by Shakti. A modern idea, the one and only aim of human or humankind is procreation. Darwin would have applauded the Charvakas. So they said, as Madhusudana Saraswati is commenting on Bhagavad Gita, Kama eva eka purusha artha. A very, very important saying of the Charvakas. Sex, kama, love, lust, desire, trieb, you call it, is the only interest or aim of humankind. So Saraswati Madhusudana explained in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, the Charvakas only accepted karma as a goal of life, while all other Brahmanical schools, as you know, in addition accept artha, dharma, moksha. The Charvakas, we can say, were hedonists, believing in hedone, seeking pleasure and avoiding suffering, and striving only for relaxed well-being, I would call it, fighting for nothing. There's nothing to fight. You can gain nothing. Life just is. Karma Eva, yeah, some people want to get in. I will just do it, sorry, because I'm still the host. I have to this duty. So Karma Eva Eka Purusha Artha was a very important saying of the Charvakas. Karma has a wide range of meaning. It's a great semantic field where how you, Prajapati in the beginning, the Shatapatha Brahmana says, hit karma. Freud would have called it trieb. And so this is the only meaning of mankind. And they also said money and pleasure as goals in life, and suffering is hell itself. There's no Naraka, but hell can be here. Naraka is here. That's what the French existentialist Sartre said. Die Hölle ist hier. Hell is here. Karma eva praninam karanam. So the commentary on the Bhagavad Gita concerning the ideas of Charvakas. The core sense of human being is procreation or sex. Completely what Darwin said. Procreation is what animals strive for. Artha kama purusha artho. Wealth and sex are the only goals of men. Artha is one of the 4 goals. Na svargo, na apavargo, vai na iva atma paralaukika. There is no heaven, no spiritual liberation, apavarga, no immortal self, na iva atma, and no other worldliness, be it rebirth or nirvana. This is what Madhava Acharya tells us in his Sarva Darshana Sangraha on the idea of Charvakas in the 1st chapter. Man is body only combined with material consciousness. Chaitanya Vishishta Kayaha Purushaha. The man is Kaya, body, with a little bit of brain. Bhutani eva chatayanti, the elements, the 4 elements make us think. They give us consciousness only. Etavan, eva purusha yavan indriya gocharaha. Man reaches as far as his senses reach. Indriya, the sense organs. And I am just as my sense organs put me. Sharira Indriya Sangata Eva Chaitanaha Kshetrajna, what they, the metaphysics, call the knower of the field, the Kshetrajna, even in the Bhagavad Gita, consciousness is nothing than the mind, Chaitana, combined with body and senses. Sharira is body, Indriya, sense organs. So, complete material conception of men. There is no neither world, paramaloka, paralokino abhavat, paraloka abhava, because no one has ever seen the other world. There is no other world. This, because what is not pratyaksha cannot be ascertained. Prana eva atma, very interesting. What they call Atman, the Vedantins, the immortal higher self, is just breath. Because breath, prana, if it is away, I am dead. So breath is what helps me up, but not anything spiritual like Atma. And Deha Uchedo Mokshaha, the dissolution of the material body, decomposition after death is liberation. Moksha. Na dharmash charet, do not follow any dharma. You can imagine that nobody in ancient India wanted to hear that. Ishyat paladvat, for good results in the future. Why should you follow the dharma hoping there's a good outcome? Ishyat means future. Sanshayit tvacha, because there is doubt of any outcome. And maranam epa apavarga, dying is the only liberation, and mrityur, the death, is the only liberation. Marana is the process of dying, and mrityu is the death itself. So the Jain scholar Haribhadra also gives us some statements about the belief of the Charvakas. So he also wrote a book, Sadarshana Samuchaya. This is the Prakrit version, Sadarshana Samuchaya, the putting together of the 6 philosophical systems. And he also is referring to the Charvaka. So he says, Dharma adharma na vidyate. They do not believe in dharma or adharma. Na palam, no result of karma. Punya papayo, and no fruit of merit or evil doing. They do not believe in any ethics. So one very famous saying of the Charvakas was Varam adya kapota shvo mayurat. It is better to have a peacock today than, sorry, wrong. It is better to have a dove today than a peacock tomorrow. What did they mean? The commentary on Kama Sutra says, discussing Charvaka philosophy, the following saying of the Charvakas: only a stupid person gives the wealth and money he has to other. It is better to have a dove today than a peacock tomorrow. Meaning, do not waste time waiting for better times, uncertain to come. Rather enjoy the moment now, because it may not get any better. Carpe diem, we say in Latin, pluck the day. And trust just your eyes. Pratyaksha eka pramana. What is in front of your eyes, direct perception, is the only means of knowledge. Pratyaksham eva ekam pramanam. And to state that fire is the cause of smoke goes beyond your direct experience. So actually, you cannot prove the cause. You can prove fire, antecedent, and the consequence, smoke, but you cannot see the cause. So you just cannot prove there is a cause. Cause would be a universal, which we cannot see. It is not a tattva. It is not an entity. While other ancient Indian schools had different cognitive criteria, direct cognition, pratyaksha, inference, anumana, presumption, arthapati, reasoning based on analogy, upamana, negative proof, based on absence, abhava, equivalence, sambhava, tradition, aitihya, coming from itiha, aha, thus he said, the Guru said, and verbal or scriptural testimony by gurus or texts. The Charvakas only accepted the first criterion, this is pratyaksha, as we do not have a reliable method to distinguish a genuine perception from an illusion, hallucination, vision, dream, memory, and the gurus might be wrong. Who can prove that the guru tells the truth? No verbal authority, shabda, in the Guru Parampara, for example, giving from one generation to the next in the Guru Parampara, in this Guru Shishya Sambandha, this is rejected by the Charvakas. No authority, think yourself. Sacred texts are not authoritative as they contradict each other. And different teachers teach different subjects and views. In my words, every Charvaka is advised to believe nothing, but to inspect and investigate everything and to understand from close observation. The visible world is enough to understand life and to cope with life and problems. This is the reason a pandit and a child or a stupid person have the same possibility to understand life. There is nothing else to know besides evidence. You get what you see, and you see what you get. Charvakas opposed and repudiated the theory and practice of caste. So Krishna Mishra, in his Prabodha Chandra Udaya, wrote one saying of a Charvaka: all mouths and all body parts of everybody are the same. How then can there exist a hierarchy of castes? Nobody, even our wives or our riches, do not belong to us. There is only one science, that of the Charvaka. Everything else is ajnana, error. It's very interesting that as Karl Marx, they constructed all classes and castes. Actually, the Charvakas did the same. I just want to show you in the short while, I'm almost coming to an end, two very famous persons who were Charvakas. One was Ajivika. Actually, he was not a Charvaka, but he was an atheist and a materialist. So according to Besham, this is what Ajita Kesha Kambali, who was a contemporary of Buddha and Mahavira, said. We should also remember the Ajivika schools. There is no merit in alms-giving, sacrifice, or offering. No result of ripening of good or evil deeds. There is no passing from this world to the next. No benefit accrues from the service of mother or father. That's very provocative in India, where parents are so much respected. And there is no afterlife. And there is no ascetics or brahmanas who have reached perfection on the right path and who, having known and experienced this world and the world beyond, publish their knowledge. Man is formed of the four elements, Macaulay Gosala said. When he dies, earth returns to earth, water to water, fire to fire, air to air, while the senses vanish into space. This is what Ajita Kesha Kambali told when he was asked by King Ajatashatru about his philosophy. This is actually translated by Besham in his book, History and Doctrines of the Ajivikas, a very interesting book. And also Ajita Kesha Kambali said, 4 men with a beard take up the corpse. They gossip about the dead man as far as the burning ground, where his bones turn to color of a dove's wing and his sacrifices end in ashes. They are fools who preach almsgiving and those who maintain the existence of immaterial categories, speaking vain and lying nonsense. When the body dies, both fool and wise alike are cut off and perish. They do not survive after death. This is Ajita Kesha Kambali. We should remember him as a very old philosopher of Lokayata and Atheism. He's a very important Indian philosopher. And the other one, before I end this lecture, is also worth to be noticed much more than it has been in the last centuries. It is Jayarashi. He is my favorite Charvaka. He's a radical ontological skeptic. Jayarashi Bhatta, who most likely flourished between 800 and 840, probably in southern India, was an Indian philosopher, a skeptic loosely affiliated to the materialist Charvaka, Lokayata school of thought, the author of one of the most extraordinary philosophical works in India, the Tattva Upaplava Singha, a text which I can only tell everybody to read who is interested in Charvaka philosophy. The lion, Singha, of dissolution, Upaplava, of Tattva, which is entity or category. Its palm leaf manuscript was discovered in 1926 only in a library, and the text having remained virtually unknown until its publication in 1940. And Jayarashi said the following: there is no karmic retribution, no afterlife, and nothing supernatural. Human actions do not bring otherworldly results, just as rebirths, punarjanma, heaven, svarga, or hell, naraka. Non-existent are demons, pishachas, atoms, paramanu, the gods, maheshvara, as they are all fictitious. The ultimate reality for us is what we see, experience, and which surrounds us immediately. There is no supernatural reality of any relevance to us ethically. The only criterion to determine what is right and wrong is what people agree to accept as such. So when you remember that the eldest Charvakas are dating back to 600 BC, then 800 AD, after so many centuries, you have again a revival in medieval India of the Charvaka belief by Jayarashi. Jayarashi, the lion of upsetting all principles, says, take it easy. Thus, when all categories, tattvas, are completely dissolved, upaplava, all practical actions entailing thought, speech, and deeds can be enjoyable without being reflected upon. This is the book. It is in a beautiful edition in Sanskrit, in a not so difficult Sanskrit. One can read it. And I, as a German, think that the Tata Upaplava, the dissolution, the conscious dissolution of all entities, is very much close to Jacques Derrida's principle of deconstruction, where he says, Derrida, that everything actually is constructed. This is very much older, of course, in India. So this was the Charvakas. This is the Tattva Upaplava Singha, a wonderful text. The Sanskrit text itself with English traditions and notes. So Jayarashi is a later philosophy, and he frequently cites and quotes verses of Brahaspati, the text which is lost, as I told you. And he calls Brahaspati the Bhagavan Brahaspati, the Honorable Brahaspati. And he criticizes all philosophical schools with two exceptions, the Advaita Vedanta of Shankaracharya he is accepting, and the schools of Charvaka and Lokayata. The worldly path, so Jayarashi says, has to be followed, laukiko marga. The business of life is loka vi avahara. We should care for nothing else. And everything we can understand is pratyaksha in front of us. Now I'm coming to an end. My last two slides refer to the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is the much respected and honored Rig Veda by German Indologists who praise them a lot. The Rig Veda is the beginning for German Indology of Indian culture itself. Everything which is shaping Indian culture is actually, has roots in the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is the beginning of everything, but what is very interesting, that already in the Rig Veda, we have traits of doubt. We have also traits of doubting the own entities and deconstructing them. So I just want to cite as the last or forelast of my slides. In the Rig Veda 10:129, we can read, then was not existent nor existent. Na asat, nasat. There was no realm of air, no sky beyond. What covered it and where? And what gave shelter? Was water there? Who verily knows? And who can here declare it? Whence it was born and whence comes this creation? The gods came afterwards. So here in this hymn of the Rig Veda, the devas, the gods, for which the sacrifices were done, are already not the creators of the universe, but behind the gods there is something. The gods came afterwards. Afterwards, this world's production. Who knows then whence it first came into being? So India has a very old tradition of skepticism, and the Rig Veda says, death was not then, nor was there any immortal. No sign was there, the days and nights divider. That one thing, breathless, breathed its own nature. Apart from it was nothing whatsoever. So traits of atheism and skepticism can be already found in the Rig Veda, which was very much praised by Carl Sagan, astronomer and astrophysician. He refers to Rig Veda 10:129 and says, he praises India's tradition of skeptical questioning and unself-consciousness humility before the great cosmic mysteries, and of course, We, as German Indologists, I personally, we agree. For us, India, you believe it or not, is the greatest culture with all traits. Spirituality, theism, atheism, Charvakas, and whatsoever. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Renate. Well, there are many questions in the chat box, but before people start expecting answers, I would say that this lecture is a pointer to all of you, that this very neglected stream of philosophy in India, ancient India, you should look up, you should try to learn more about it. You won't get ready answers in one lecture. Many people have been asking about comparative studies and whether there are proofs for Charvaka philosophy, etc., etc. So obviously, a lot of work needs to be done. Here, the German Indologists are doing a lot of work, so can we. Instead of just concentrating on the spirituality part of it, we can also concentrate on the skepticism part of our traditions, because skepticism is much more important than accepting a given set of values or principles. Who can read out some of the questions? Not all, but some of the questions. Everybody is thanking you. Renate.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wonderful lecture. Thank you, ma'am. Enlightening and enriching. Danke. Danke schön. Amazing experience. But what were Charvaka's ideas on violence or himsa? Mainstream schools of thought have a discourse on how to live dharma, on what is acceptable. When we say they rejected dharma, do we mean they rejected the mainstream ideas of dharma? Did they have a code of conduct, ethics? Nobody is, I think, Charvaka is not saying you should not be ethical. They are only saying if you do good or bad, it is not going to affect your destiny or your afterlife. That's what they are saying. They are not propagating unethical behavior. Renate, yeah, please come.
That's true. Actually, there is a discussion whether all the Charvakas were dhurtas, which means rogues. And then the answer was no, they were not. They were shikshita, they were well informed, and they had a high level of intelligence and, as we say in German, Bildung, experience. So actually, it is not, Charvaka philosophy does not mean that you are doing bad things. It is just you do the right thing, but you hope and you hope for nothing and expect nothing, because there is no retribution, whether you do good or you do bad. And actually, this is a very modern idea. Yeah, but I think Charvakas would not do anything really bad because they didn't want to end in prison. I mean, so it is better you behave well in any case, even if you do not believe in anything. Yeah.
I will read out one question. Is it fair to say that the Charvaka school of philosophy is the first recorded school of fatalist nihilism?
Sorry, because?
Is it fair to say that the Charvaka school of philosophy is the first recorded school of fatalist nihilism?
Yes, it is. I think, okay, there are some traits in ancient Greek philosophy, but it is true to say that the Charvaka school is very old. We can say it has the same origin, a time of origin than Sankhya, yoga, whatsoever, Vedanta. Vedanta is a little bit elder, maybe. The Charvakas, they are contemporaries of Buddha and Mahavira, and it's much older than any European materialism. Yes, that's right. David Hume, if you read David Hume, he says the same things, or John Dewey, having no connection with India, they just think independently. But in any case, Indian philosophy generally is much older than Western philosophy. Western philosophy starts in the 4th century in Greece. And then in the 4th century, you have in India, you have already 1,600 years of philosophy, starting with the Vedas, Upanishads, and so on. Indian philosophy generally is much older, and everybody in Germany does not know this, but we Indologists know, and we propagate it, yes.
There are people are asking whether they were politically persecuted. We don't have, whether we have any proofs of that. These are the questions.
Sorry, I didn't understand it properly.
Whether the Charvakas, the school of thought people, were persecuted, politically persecuted.
They did not. That's the difference between Marxism. You can compare a Marxist materialism with the Charvaka. The interesting thing is that Charvaka philosophy actually did not become political as far as we know at all. They were not supported because of their ideas. They were not supported by Indian kings as other schools were. And it is said that at the court of Indian kings, the Brahmins were very important, and actually they gave entrance or denied it. And so the school of Charvaka was never supported financially or else by Indian kings and so on. But we know that at the court of Akbar, who invited philosophers of all Indian schools, also Charvakas showed up and discussed their ideas with, it is written in the Aini Akbari. But we have no trace of political influence of the Indian materialism, as Marxism in the West, as you know, did. Yeah.
They were asking about persecution, whether they was there a witch hunt for them, were they destroyed, were they killed? There is no proof of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think people, you should read more about this. Maybe Instrucent will come up with a more extensive course on Charvakas, because there is a lot to learn. Maybe we can discuss it with Renate or some other scholars, and we can dig up a few more things, because this book, The Lion of
Tatva Upaplava Singha, The Lion of Deconstruction of Entities. Mukta, may I just interfere? Sorry, somebody is asking, would Vatsyayana be considered a Charvaka? No. Vatsyaya, the writer of the Kama Sutra, at one point he wrote on you know, the goals of life, which is artha, kama, and so on, and discussing which is important. And the commentary, the Yashodhara commentary, said is just referring to the Charvakas. But of course, neither Vatsyayana Malanaga, the composer of the Kama Sutra, nor Yashodhara, the commentator, were affine to Charvakas. Definitely not. Jain and Buddha and Shramana and Charvaka schools are in some way related, as they are all Anatmavada. Even the Buddhists, as you know, do not believe in Atman. I mean, in the ancient Indian concept of Atman. So Buddhism is also Anatmavada. The Jains, not directly. Shramana, yes. The Ajivikas, they are also denying Atman. So there are some connections, because they are all Nastikas. Nastika means not accepting anything spiritual and not the authority of the Vedas. And the Vedas were not accepted by the Buddhists and the Jainas, as you know. Yeah.
Are you reading the questions?
There are so many questions, but I think, yeah. What other subjects can you cover in such lectures for us? Actually, may I say this as a German, I mean, actually, I have followed the discussion of what is her name? Wendy Doniger. I don't cherish her. I think she's writing a lot of rubbish. But I think it is, whenever I'm in India giving lectures, I'm reluctant because to lecture Indians on their own subject is quite bold. And I think that somebody can be offended. So I'm reluctant even to publish this lecture.
There are only two types. There are only two types. It's nothing to do with being Indian, or there are many Indians who wouldn't know about it, and there are many Germans who would know about this, and they wouldn't know about Germany itself. So that's not a category as such. But yes, you definitely are not, attacking type. Our Wendy is.
Yeah, as you might know, German Indology has a very long tradition. The Germans were amazed when Sanskrit, 200 years back, the Sanskrit came to Europe, and the first grammars were made. And the Germans detected that the Sanskrit grammar is much more complicated than Latin and Greek. So there was a great admiration for India. One was because of Sanskrit, the other was because of the Upanishads, which were translated into German very soon, 1806, and the Bhagavad Gita. I would think these three things, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and the Sanskrit language, made the Germans particularly, admire Indian culture. Then they detected that the Indians might be Aryans, so they are related by us, and our German language is close.
Shoots of that love also.
Yes.
We know.
So, and now in these days, in these years, I can understand it in Germany, I'm in Munich at the university, the interest for Indian culture, for Indian philosophy becomes more and more strong. For a long time, Indian philosophy was only recepted in yoga schools and esoteric or spiritual circles, but now more and more people are interested in Indian philosophy genuinely, and I think Indian philosophy as a whole, including the Charvakas and materialists, will become much more interesting for Germans in future. Yeah, India is actually, as you know, admired by Germans. Yeah, that's true. No country
of debating and Khandan Mandan Prakriya.
No country, Mugdha, no other country except India has so many chairs for Indology than Germany has.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can say this was a healthy tradition of challenging the given, and we should nurture it wherever possible. We should also take pride in it, that this is our heritage.
Yeah.
Being skeptic, saying no, this doesn't happen.
Yeah. Actually, India has everything itself. It does not need foreign systems or philosophies. And actually, if you know, in Germany,
I wouldn't say
in
that.
the West, people always think that they have made everything important, and every other country should follow the European and Western way, and this is stupid because, for example, India.
We would need, like, for example, the Lokayata literature is not available, but Jacques Derrida's is. So we do need Jacques Derrida also. We do need other Western philosophers.
Okay,
Waldo Emerson.
It's wonderful, Mugdha, that you as an Indian, you praise the foreign things, and I as a foreigner praise the Indian things. In a long tradition of Indian admirers.
Saying Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, but that's only for saying. When it comes to the smaller parochial asmitas, like, identities, then we get carried away with that. That should not happen. We should really think globally, because thought, knowledge is global, has to be global. So we should absorb from everywhere. It's not it. We don't have to look at the West. We don't have to look at the Far East. We have to look everywhere.
You are right. Yes.
Do you want to take any more questions? There are many interesting questions. In fact, I would say all of you, if you have the Institution Trust email ID, you can post your, you can paste your questions on that email ID. We would forward it to Renate whenever she finds time. Maybe she will answer, or it will encourage us to have a separate course.
I will send you the presentation, Mugda, and then you can distribute it, or whoever wants to have it can have it, of course.
Oh, yes.
Actually, in Germany,
Thank you so much.
we are making this written because you can understand for German students, it's very difficult to understand all those complicated names and Sanskrit citations. So we started to not only to give lectures, but because of the complicated names and Sanskrit language citations, we also write it down.
Here also, in India also.
It is a lot of work, but the students have much more if they have such a written.
We will share your lecture itself on our website. You speak beautifully, and when the PPTs are available to go along with it, it will be easy.
I will send it to you.
And we'll take it ahead.
Yeah.
In some other manner.
Good.
Good. So shall we say bye-bye to you for now? For now.
For now, yes.
There. Our host.
Thank you very much, Mukta, for inviting me, and thank you all for coming and listening and having so much patience. Thank you. I'm very happy.
All mine, all of us. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Email ID of Institution Trust is given here. So you may note it down, and if you want to ask any questions to Renate ma'am, you can ask them on the email ID. We will forward. We will, of course, sieve through it and give it. What is this Jai Mata Di Ashwini Gauri? You.
Yeah.
She is giving an antidote to the Charvaka philosophy. Jai Mata Di. Okay. Thank you very much, Renate.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Namaskar. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.